Hello everybody, we're looking at Unit 3 notes. This is savings, and we're going to be taking a look at 3.1 simple interest. So in your packet, go ahead and get to this page, and I'm just going to quickly kind of uncover a bunch of this stuff. And then I want to have you guys fill in your notes as you're looking at each section. This is kind of defining what is a principal amount. So if you don't know, principal is the interest deposited into an account some sort. There's going to be an interest rate, and then you want to make sure that you're filling in your notes with what an interest rate is. We kind of talked about this already in Unit 2. So it's interest that you're going to get on your money added to your account, and then interest itself is money that the bank pays you in return for keeping your money. So it sounds kind of weird, but if you look at the process, if you didn't realize this is how banks work, you start out by putting money into a bank. The bank then go ahead and makes an investment. It takes your money and makes more money, and they get a profit. And then after that, they calculate your portion that they promised to you, which is the interest. And then notice a part of that goes back to the bank. They keep the rest of what they made off of their profit, but they give you what they promised you in interest, and that's where you're earning money in your bank account. So when you see that 3% that you get on your savings account, or if you have 4%, if you're doing really well, most of those are going to be basically a portion of what the bank made off of their investment. So it sounds kind of shady, but unfortunately that's how they do business. So banks will make money. They make a lot more money than you do, but they're going to give you a little taste, and that's how they make their money off of the banks. They're borrowing your money to do it. Okay? So when you save money in the bank, they reward you with a little interest, and that's the profit that you get based off of a little bit portion of what they get, which is a lot more. Okay? Simple interest is going to be the simplest form to calculate interest. Interest amount is based on the principal and does not change. Basically, you will never get simple interest from a bank. The only time you're ever going to see simple interest is if you borrow money from maybe family or friends, but it's never ever going to be something the bank does. Okay, so go ahead and pause for a moment if you need to. Go back up, take a look at those, and write those in. Okay, now that you've entered those in on your notes, here's some more vocab here discussing when interest starts with principal, which is what you're starting with, the initial amount. And this can be starting investment on a loan. Interest in the most simplest form is calculated as a percent of the principal. So when we talk about interest rates, there's something called an annual percentage rate. And this is the interest rates that's given over the full year. Okay, so it's not just calculated for the month or for the day. It's going to be what is the interest you pay for the full year, and that's what we call an annual percentage rate. Okay. For the long-term simple interest loans, it is common for interest to be paid on an annual basis. So that's why when we calculate this, it's in years. Okay, so that would be a simple little example here. Is suppose you want to borrow $10,000 from a friend, and they agree to pay it with 3% annual in simple interest annually for 5 years. Okay, so you would only repay your friend not only the 10,000 you borrowed, but you would also have to pay them that 3% every single year. So if you look at the chart, we break it down as to year 1, 10,000 starting balance. So after the year of using their 10,000, you owe them $300. So their total that you owe now is $10,300 to your friend. After year 2, we take that $10,300 and we do the calculation again. So again, it's going to be another $300 that gets added to your total balance. So now you owe them $10,600. And if you continue this for the full 5 years, you can see the total that you're going to owe your friend is going to be the $11,500 after you've added 300, 300, 300 for every single year. Okay. So this is how simple interest works, and that's going to be the total. Okay. All right, there's 2 formulas for simple interest. You may want to write those ones down. These are the descriptors. So at the very top where it says I equals P RT, it would be a good idea to note this is multiplication, guys. So down here at the bottom, you're actually going to multiply this P times R times T. Let's see if I can get my board to work. There we go. All right, so you're going to go ahead and just make a note. This is multiplication. And then right over here, there's another formula. And you say, well, why do we need two formulas? Well, this is the formula if you're just calculating what your interest will be. The other formula is so that you can calculate what the amount of interest that you would have plus what you borrowed. Okay, so P stands for the principal. And if you look at it, basically we can do some distribution here and kind of see how this works. If I multiply P times 1, well, that's just P. And then P times these two, your rate and time, well, that's going to be plus P times R times T. And if you look at it, that is basically what the formula for interest is. So you're saying, in other words, if I take the interest and just take the principal that you borrowed originally, add those two together, what you get is the amount that you owe. Okay, so all together, that's what this formula does, is it calculates your principal plus your interest. And that's just basic math if you went ahead and followed that. Otherwise, just know if I want the interest amount, we use this formula. If I want to know how much is in the account after so many years, then you would use this formula down here. Okay? All right, now we're going to take a look at the next page, which has some more doodle notes on it. And this actually shows you how to use the interest formula so that I equals PRT. Down here you got this grandma little stick figure. She says she deposited $350 into her savings account with a 3% interest. How much will be in the account after 2 years? So the first thing I'm looking at is how do you set that up? You get the formula up above, and it's got I equals PRT. So if I'm doing this one, I'm also looking at the colors. I'm going to color code. So my principal amount here is what we deposited. That's going to be my 350, so that's going to be P. I'm going to use the rate. They gave me a 3%, so that's going to be my R. But remember, rate has to be a decimal, so we're going to do 3 over 100, which also is the same thing as 0.03. So that's the rate I'm going to use, is the 0.03. And then time, how much time did she say? She said after 2 years. So I'm going to put that as 2. So if I'm looking at this, my T is going to be green. My principal here, I do blue. And then we're calculating the interest, and that's the total. So if you have an answer, try it in your calculator real quick, see what you come up with, and let's see if we have a matching answer for your interest. Okay, take a pause. Okay, if you came up with an answer, you should have got the interest amount was $21. Now, if you look at what she's asking, is that answering her question? How much will be in the account after 2 years? So if you said no, you'd be correct, because this is actually the interest amount. That's not the total. So remember, to do the total, we had to add the interest, which is the $21, plus the principal, which we said was $350. So by adding those two together, now we have her answer. Okay, so the other equation that I gave to you does this for us all together. So instead of doing this in 2 steps, you could use the A equation where it says P equal or P times 1 plus R times T. That's what this equation does for us. So if you notice the 350, that's going to be your principal. So we put that for P. And then we had R, which is your 0.03. And then you have your time, which was 2. And notice the calculator is going to do the multiplication first, then it's going to add 1, and then it's going to times the 350. Okay, and if you do that, it will give you an answer of 371, which is exactly what we got here. Okay, try and answer this guy's question. This is the Einstein-looking guy. He says he's wanting to deposit $500 per quarter, and he's going to have 6% interest, and he wants to know what is the amount of interest, now just the interest, after the first quarter. He's kind of tricky, so see if you can set it up. Okay, let's see how much of an Einstein you are. If you saw 500 as P, 6%, don't forget this was 0.06, and they use the word quarter, which you guys know means 25 cents, but also as a decimal we could write 0.25 and rewrite it as a fraction, meaning 1 over 4. So if you got this one, this was the tricky part, and Mr. Einstein over here put in the numbers into the interest formula. So 500 times 0.06 times 1/4. If you did that, then this gives you your $7.50. And notice they use the 0.25 here, or they use the 1/4. Doesn't really matter. Okay. So if you got this as your answer, remember this was just interest. This was not anything but interest only. Okay. All right, here's another example where you have Matt deposits $8,000 into a 3.1% simple interest for 20 years. How much money is in the account at the end of the 20 years? So want to make sure that you guys are seeing they do say 3.1%. Your notes might be a little bit different. I have this guy. So I have 3.1%, remembering that you're going to change 3.1 from a percent to a decimal. Dividing that by 100 gives us 0.031. So then that's the rate that you want to be using. So this is the R. Whereas you have your years, which is T. And then you have your principal amount, which is 8,000. Okay, take a moment, pause, and see if you can calculate this one out. Remember, they want the amount, not the interest only. Okay, let's see what you got. If you put the numbers in the right places, you have these. Notice 0.031 is the same thing as 0.031. Just make sure this is multiplied first before you add, and then multiply that answer times 8,000. If you did, congratulations, if you got 12,960. All right, let's take a look at the next one. Okay, Maria has 16,000. She's going to invest simple interest at 3%, and her deposit was 16,000, and she's going to put it in for 19 years. They want to know how much interest, so this is the I formula, and then the second one says how much money is in the account at the end of the 19 years. So that's the A formula. So take a moment, see if you can set both up, and then come up with some solutions. All right, so I know everybody did the 3%, changed it to a 0.03 because you guys are good like that. And if you did the first one, which said interest, you did principal rate times time. Hopefully you set up those three numbers and multiplied them together. And at the very end, did you get $9,102 or $20? So if you got $9,120, you're good. Here's the other. So that answers the first question, interest. The other question says how much was in the accounts. So in the account, this is why we're doing the A formula. So this should be how much is in the account. P times 1 plus R times T. And if you set that one up, this one is using 16,000 times parentheses 1 plus 0.03 times 19. Again, you get your calculator to multiply first, then add the 1, and then multiply the 16,000. If you type it in with the parentheses, you should have got 25,120, which is the correct answer. By the way, same answer could be got by using this number, the 9,120, and the principal, which is the 16,000. So if you just add those two together, principal plus interest, that's the same answer. Remember, that's what this formula does. It calculates principal plus interest. Okay, please don't forget to click submit at the end of this Edpuzzle. All right, have a great day, guys, and we'll see you tomorrow.